Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. We're here another week, but we're still joined by a couple of best friends. As per usual, we have Rakush. Hey, Rakush.
What up?
How are you doing?
I'm not coughing anymore.
Well,
That would have been a great time for me to actually cough, but, I couldn't come up with the cough there, which actually means I'm not coughing anymore, so that's great.
Good to hear it. Good to hear that you're in high spirits and good health, but also joining us, hopefully.
I'm in good health. I don't know about the high spirits part.
Fair enough. Maybe our friend Julian, I guess you're not necessarily the professor anymore, but hopefully our friend Julian is in high spirits. How are you doing, Julian?
Yeah, pretty high spirits, I'll be honest.
Sensei, genki desu ka?
Yeah.
At least
Yes.
that makes one of us here in the mistake zone at the very least, because boys, I return from, another small isekai adventure where didn't want to tell Rakush this, but I was in Rakush's neck of the woods, trying to avoid him, and avoid him I did.
Good couple of weeks to avoid me.
But I have returned to the Mistake Zone HQ, and I'm currently buried in a bunch of snow. And within the last, I want to say 7 days, I think I've spent a total of around, let's say 14 hours collectively shoveling snow. And
That's insane.
now that Rakush has, been in the flu, been in the cold, I think I might be under the weather now from the 14 hours spent outside shoveling because, boys, let's just say plows, not your friend. City plows, not your friend. Snowblower is your friend, but city plows, not your friend.
Yeah.
But Matt, as someone who also got the brunt of it, how has your snow shoveling escapades been the last week?
See, okay, the snow that was coming down was mostly, kind of like powder snow consistency. So doing, the top, I want to say 80% of the driveway is always like, it's easy, it's light, it's nothing hard, and I actually find that part kind of enjoyable. But when you get down to that last 20% that's covered in snowplow snow, ooh, that's rough. Jared, I don't know how high it got like at your area, but for me, on the, I think like Wednesday morning is when like the first like big snow finished.
Yes.
The pile of snowplow snow at the end of my driveway came up to about my mid rib cage.
Damn.
Yeah. Because at that time, I was within the Saturday morning arcade clubhouse vicinity, also trying to avoid Matt Alba at the same time. But between shoveling at my parents' house and then going to my partner's parents' house and then shoveling there, just the amount of height it's gotten was alarming. And then, of course, coming back to the Mistake Zone HQ and then seeing how tall it got here after the initial wave on Wednesday and then the weekend wave. Not great, but Rakush, I know you're within the city, a bit north. I know even though you're not participating in snow shoveling escapades, how was your just day-to-day with the snowcast?
I mean, it kind of impacted me a little bit, which I'll get to in a second, but I think the weekend wave hit this part of the town a lot worse than the midweek one. The midweek one, I felt like, whatever, like you could kind of like survive it. It was just snow, right? I think what has really kind of put it over the top this time for me personally is that before that snow could kind of like dissipate, it's been hit with another just round of crazy snow over the weekend, right? And so I had a 4-day weekend, including today. We're recording on the Monday. On the Friday, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go watch a movie because I don't have anything else to do. So I bought the ticket and then I look outside and it started snowing and I'm like, shit. I spent like $20 on like a ticket and I was like, nah, I'm gonna go watch this. So I had to kind of like drive in this crazy snow.
Oh, Rakush.
I survived. Car survived, but I did have to kind of like, clean up the car a little bit afterwards and things like that. And hey, on the plus side, theater was super empty, man. Like that was great. But yeah, and then like it's just been nonstop since then. My garage entrance, like where my car is parked, it's an underground parking lot for a building that it's on a back road, so it's kind of like an unattended back road as well, which means like it's not getting cleaned up as regularly and things of that nature as well. Yeah, this is like one of the more insane kind of like snow or like insane winters in general that I've seen in this city in a long time. Yes, I lived in Montreal a couple of years ago, and yes, I've seen this much snow before. Montreal has a lot of equipment that actually takes the snow off of the streets. Like they literally have trucks that are like taking the snow off the streets, literally taking it off the streets like a vacuum and putting it onto the truck bed. And then like they're driving it, I believe, like off Montreal Island or something like that. And typically that's how they get rid of a lot of the snow. Now you will of course see some like on the sides and things like that. You're not going to get all of it, but this city doesn't really have that technology as far as I understand it, because it doesn't snow this much. It's honestly at least for a decade not snowed this much, maybe longer. The only reason I'm saying a decade is because the last memory I have of saying, wow, this winter's kind of crazy, is during the 2016 NBA All-Star Weekend that happened in the city, where like it was minus 30 and stuff like that. So yeah, like, it's it's been an adventure. It's been a little bit crazy. Although I will say kind of like walking around in this, not having to shovel the snow and stuff like that, it's kind of like weirdly pretty. It's like this very busy neighborhood that just kind of like shuts down, but like, you can still walk to like restaurants and like get like food or like, like milk tea or something like that, and like you can walk around and it's kind of dead. And I always find like whenever it snows, right, like in general, like the sound isn't traveling as much. So like you have like this weird sort of like peace and quiet there as well. So yeah, managing, but kind of insane.
Yeah, snow's gorgeous when you don't have to actually deal with it.
Yeah.
I know there's a kind of foresty path by where we live, and just taking our dog out there over the weekend and just seeing her enjoy herself and just the scenery it creates. Just walking by kids, pulling their toboggans and, inflatable tubes, like that's cool. But it's just when you're shoveling, it's when you're trying to drive through it
totally
and manage it, that not great.
You sent like a photo as well, and like it looked like you had to basically do like an entire like driveway's width of like 4 feet of snow thanks to like the snow plows. That's kind of crazy.
It's not great, but boys felt kind of, well, not really felt bad, just because after we cleared that, end shove plow snow or whatever, we noticed that our neighbor across the street, she's a bit older, so we went to help her a bit as well. And then there was the student house kind of right beside them with, the guy with his Porsche trying to clear the way so he can put his Porsche in the garage. And then after we helped our neighbor, we thought, you know what, he can fend for himself. Guys, did we make the right decision?
I think it's the right decision.
Yeah.
If you make that kind of investment in this country for a Porsche, you need to invest in keeping it indoors at all times.
But Julian, you're out in the East Coast. How's the winter been for you, friend?
I mean, not as bad as what you guys are talking about. We did have a blizzard last week, but it was like pretty bog standard blizzard, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but I live in the cul-de-sac, so like the snowplow. I guess it's true wherever you live, but a lot of snowplows, like the snowplows here, leave a huge, like when you're like finished shoveling the driveway and then the snowplow comes around and they leave like a snowbank and you're like, God damn it. That happened a couple of times, but what do you do?
Yeah.
I got a question. For all of you guys, have you guys seen any like snowmen? Like, have kids been like building them up in your neighborhood? Because this feels like the perfect time to build a snowman.
We would if at at least our general area, I'm pretty sure if a child were to jump into their lawn, they'd sink and be probably suffocate from being buried in snow. So
Yeah.
that's how tall it is right now. Where I'd be worried about any kid who tried to jump in there.
Fair.
I mean, I don't go outside, so I
Fair
haven't.
enough.
That is also fair. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We had the big like snow hill or like the snow mountain in the middle of the cul-de-sac for like
Oh,
a
man.
day
Nice.
before they took
Yeah.
it away, and all
Nice.
the neighborhood kids were like,
Oh wait,
like climbing and like
they take it away?
yeah they take it away.
Oh,
So I guess like
Huh.
they have the same
Damn.
trucks as like Montreal did.
sad.
Does.
Nope, that's our big snow mountain is in the middle of our circle or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, some of the neighborhood kids are playing on it, but no snowmen. Not yet anyway.
We're losing recipes, man. That's like one of those things where as a kid, if you told me like when I was living in India specifically, like if you asked me like what are you doing on a snow day or like what are you doing when there's snow outside, the stuff that I learned off of TV was like you are going to go outside and like, toboggan or like build a snowman or like, have snowball fights or whatever. And like
I mean,
Has
Yeah.
anyone here actually built like a proper snowman though? Like for me personally, I've only kind of just rolled the balls and kind of stacked them together, but I've never like gave them a face or put like clothes on them.
I mean, I have, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Also, I feel like this snow that came down this week wasn't good for
Not like packing
building a
snow.
snowman. Yeah, it's not packing
yeah, it was
snow.
kind of soft.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like this is great snow to play in, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's good snow to make a snowman.
I think there's like you can pack it because of the volume of snow,
Mhm.
but yeah, it is like you would need more snow or like
It'll
more
take
effort
some work.
to
It'll
do
take
it.
some work.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to build a snowman? Is that our next like Saturday morning arcade special? Sorry, Mistake Zone special. My bad. Sorry, I forgot.
All right, there we go. He has the branding.
Good. Yeah. That involves going outside, and I'm not about that life.
See, Rakush, I think that's a good team building activity that, you proposed, but I feel like if we had at least 3 of us at the most together, the team building activity I would want to do is play Elden Ring Nightreign together. Because boys, this past weekend was the Elden Ring Nightreign network test or network stress test. 5 sessions starting on Valentine's Day, and I was able to nab entry into the Xbox stress test. Played 3 sessions throughout the weekend in between shoveling snow, of course. And I've gone on record on the show before. Matt can attest, I am a big Elden Ring fan. I'm also a big roguelite fan. So if you were to tell me that Elden Ring was going to have a roguelite spin-off, I'd have my reservations. And after playing roughly 6 hours of the stress test, honestly, I think I have all I need from Elden Ring Nightreign right now.
Oh man.
Where, don't get me wrong, I am in favor of devs, repurposing assets into more meaningful or alternative gameplay experiences. Something like what the Yakuza franchise is doing with their spin-offs, where, you might be taking, say, the Hawaii map from the mainline Yakuza games and then repurposing it for the, the Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii game. So things like that, I'm all in favor of, just because we're going to get more gameplay, and then, games aren't having these extravagant budgets that more often than not in these current times are failing to really make that back. But with Elden Ring Nightreign, I feel like everything I like about vanilla or base Elden Ring doesn't exist in this package, just because it's such a different game than what I want or what I loved from base Elden Ring. So just to kind of set it up, for the stress test, you were given 4 classes that you can pick from. You have your general fighter, a more tanky boy, an assassin girl, and a mage girl. But their stats are kind of predefined and scale automatically when you level up in the world. And right off the bat, that already kind of sets off some flags for me, just because one of the things that you've come to get used to from the From games, from the Soul games, and from Elden Ring proper is having a build and then building towards what you want to do. Say, oh, I want to do a dex build, I want to do an intelligence build, and then working towards that. Here, you're essentially just given a character for a run, and you set off into what is essentially a battle royale of sorts, where after a pretty sweet anime introduction of you and your crew kind of rolling in and then jumping in to the lands between below, you drop, and all which the next, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes is you basically running from different point of interest to point of interest, killing the trash mobs, getting loot drops, and hoping that the loot that drops is one, a weapon you like of good rarity, and that it has some good passives attached to it. So since you're on a timer, because at night, as the name suggests, that's when you fight the daily boss, and you have a storm circle kind of pushing you to where that boss will spawn, which more often than not is just a big open field at that point. So it's a lot more fast paced, where you're essentially sprinting from location to location. There's no fall damage, so you're jumping off really big cliffs, hoping that wherever you land, there's mobs for you to kill, or better yet, there's a named enemy that you can kill. And then once you defeat them, you'll get a bonus drop, whether that be a passive or a weapon. And once you finally get to the boss, you fight it. The day is complete once you win, and the cycle begins anew. Where it's, again, what I loved about Elden Ring is that feeling of exploration, of just going somewhere, seeing what you can discover, trying to survive, and then once you finally get to the boss, kind of repeatedly ramming your head against it until you become victorious. But here it's more so none of that really exists. I feel like you don't have enough time to really explore the areas, the points of interest that you come across, just because time is of the essence. It's kind of reminiscent of Risk of Rain, where, again, you're trying to beat the clock, get your gear, and then get ready for the final boss. And then in terms of meta progression, you have, once you successfully complete a run, you get some relics, and these relics are your meta passives that you can equip up to 3 before you start a run, and kind of the cycle continues. Where when this game was initially announced at the Game Awards, I was thinking, oh, maybe this would be a bite size, maybe same scale of Shadows of the Erdtree storied experience, where you and your friends can just roam around, have adventures, discover new things. But here it's nope, just beeline it, hope you get the good drops, and fight the boss, maybe die, and restart that cycle for you to fight them again. And then that's when you have to kind of learn their patterns and such. Where with this game in particular as well, you can do a run single player or in a trios, because for some reason duos doesn't exist, which is also pretty odd. But again, you would hope that the people you queue up against are actually about fighting the boss, sticking together, because I've made it to day 2 during the network test a few times, and that's when the group was together, we stuck together, we explored, we were sharing drops, not taking what the other class might be building towards. But then there's also network or some sessions where everyone just went their own way, and everyone died to the circle before the final boss spawns, where thankfully, if you die before the final boss, you just spawn at one of the bonfires that you found. But if you die during a boss, that's when your run ends. But yeah, it's a roguelite. It has the Elden Ring wrapper, but at the same time, it's not what I kind of want out of Elden Ring, where by the end of my 3rd network session, I thought I'm pretty good. I just if I want more Elden Ring, I'll just do Elden Ring proper. And if I want that multiplayer experience, then you have the seamless multiplayer mod. I feel like with the success of that mod, that's what people were hoping for in a more official capacity, and I don't think that's it. Plus, Matt, as fellow mage boys, I think the mage plays awful in Nightreign, where to refresh your mana, you essentially have to do damage to an enemy, which drops kind of like, I think, mana essence, and then you pick it up and that you don't have a dedicated mana flask. But I feel like that maybe I wasn't understanding the mechanic, because for the most part, I felt like playing as a mage, I never had mana after my initial attacks. And at that point, I was just sword and boarding it, where with less HP than the fighter character, if I was going to do it that way. But it's something that I want to like because it's Elden Ring and it's a roguelite, but at the same time, having that together and being used to what made me fall in love with Elden Ring proper, it just doesn't mesh for me, where I know this is coming out end of May, and I believe it's launching around $40 American, which is probably 55 our currency, so I don't know. This is one of those titles where if it eventually gets to $20 and I have two other friends that want to dick around for a week or two, maybe. But again, I'm glad that I got into the network test just because even though when it clicks, it feels pretty good, but those moments of clicking were pretty far in between during me playing it. So yeah, Elden Ring Nightreign. If you're looking for a roguelite experience, I guess that's where I would recommend it if you like the Souls gameplay. But if you liked Elden Ring for the exploration, for the slow methodical gameplay, for the build variety, then maybe you're just better off playing Elden Ring in that regard. But did you guys read any just reception to the game over the past weekend? Or is this even something that you would be interested in?
I thought this was a live service game because of like how it's built, but
Nope,
so it's not.
Nope, it's just a roguelite. Roguelite with your friends, Julian.
Okay.
So it's like a PvE experience, not...
Yeah.
Well, I guess it would be PvE, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you mentioned this and maybe I just missed it, but you said there's like a timer element to this. Is there also like a dynamic map element to this, or is the map always the same?
I feel like the map, it might be for the network test, but the map for the most part has been the same. I think it is the size of Limgrave from the base Elden Ring, but I know when they did announce the release date, they said this game will have DLC where, you have... The thought would be if this becomes a way to repurpose a lot of From's greatest hits. Maybe you have enemies from the Souls games, enemies from Elden Ring, I don't know, maybe enemies from Sekiro, maybe weapons from all these different games. If that was the direction they were going into, something similar to like the Warzone map in Call of Duty, where it takes all these POIs from different Call of Duty games and then puts it into one map. I think that could be a cool way to present this game as, your Soul's greatest hits in a way. But from what was just in the network test, it just seemed like a map that was very reminiscent of, again, Limgrave from the previous from Elden Ring proper, but not necessarily one-to-one. Where, again, even if you are pulling all these POIs, the gameplay is so booking it from one encampment to another, where even if they did pull that stuff, maybe you wouldn't have the time to properly explore and appreciate it. But yeah, that was kind of my time with it. I will say that the tanky boy was like a humanoid bird. Matt, do you remember in Elden Ring if you can have... Was your character like human, or could you have like different body types? I can't remember if
I'm
the bird
pretty
had
sure
as a
your
thing.
character was like very much always a humanoid.
Okay.
I don't think you could be a bird. At least I don't remember a bird being able to become a bird.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. So at least they're exploring different things.
Oh,
but
actually, sorry. One more thing, because I just remember this when you mentioned bird. In Nightreign, I think from the Game Awards trailer, the thing that like really stuck out to me the most was the traversal mechanics, where they were going around on a bird, and there was like that one part where the dude parkours up a wall. Like, how does the actual traversal itself feel, and is there any more stuff other than like, I guess those two things in terms of traversal?
So maybe I wasn't paying attention, but when that bird we see in the trailer, that's essentially you jumping out of the battle bus in Fortnite, and that's your glider onto the map. Where maybe that's not, because another criticism that I have is the map's big, and I don't think you have access to your horse, or if you jump off a cliff, you can't really redeploy your bird glider. So I would hope those are things that find themselves in an update or maybe in the full release. But in terms of traversal, it's a lot of sprinting. And yes, you can now mantle up kind of walls. And even if it isn't, it's not like Assassin's Creed, but there is some arcadey, I can kind of shimmy up a wall if it's not too high. But for the most part, there is a mantling, and that kind of adds to the more arcadey feel that Nightreign is. So, I was hoping more for the birds, but it was, again, you're just dropping into the map and trying to beat the circle. But yeah, that was the Elden Ring Nightreign network stress test coming out end of May. Again, if you like Elden Ring, depending on what you loved about it, this might not be for you, but as a roguelite, I was wishing for a lot more meta progress just to kind of help with your runs, but this seems like a Souls ass roguelite. So I'm more excited to see speedrunners play this rather than playing it myself at the end of the day. But while I have a sip of tea, Matt, what have you been up to this week?
I mean, I guess going from an Elden Ring roguelike, I want to jam about a first-person space roguelike.
Okay.
In Deadzone Rogue, which currently has a demo out right now that I kind of spent like a lot of time in. And Deadzone Rogue is actually a spin-off from I believe a failed game called Star Siege Deadzone, which used to be a PvPvE extraction shooter that, from my knowledge, didn't really go anywhere, so they repurposed all the assets and stuff into a first-person roguelike. And in this game, the general premise is, hey, you are this dude who has amnesia, the usual shtick, and you have a gun and you're trying to fight your way out of a robot-infested space station. And the kind of like mechanics themselves of, hey, like you're shooting, like you got like, some nice sliding, some nice abilities like that get added over the standard kind of roguelike progression, all feel very, very good. And for a demo, I was very, very surprised at how much stuff there was actually in this demo. Like, it has a full first world in it, and that is basically like divided into kind of like its sub levels and everything. It's like, I think like 30 to 35 sections, which all feel like pretty good to play through. And I'm looking forward to more of this, because I think the thing that I really, really want out of this particular Deadzone Rogue game is more variety. Even though the demo itself has so much variety, the game itself kind of like progresses you through major augments, and then you get like minor augments based on which major augments you take. Okay. Where your major augments are things like, hey, you have, chance to basically just respawn bullets into your gun whenever you shoot. You have stuff like, hey, your shield regenerates like super quickly. There's 4 elements in the game of like lightning, fire, ice, and it's basically dark, but they have their own name for it. And they all kind of have their own mechanics of, oh, hey, lightning gives you chain lightning. Like, the ice one gives you chill, burns on the fire. And then the dark element is like damage, like incoming damage reduction type gameplay. And there are so many already kind of like styles of gameplay that you can build towards that all feel very, very good. And there are at least like right now 2 or 3 kind of sub builds that you can do with each major augment that feel, like I said, like very good to play with. And while I do want like, a lot more variety in the full game, I think the thing that I personally really, really want more is more balancing, because
Okay.
the lightning build is extremely, extremely strong compared to everything else. And I really, really hope that the other builds in the full release are going to be elevated to the same level as lightning, instead of everything being the lightning being nerfed down to the levels of everything else.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with some friends as well, when it comes to kind of balanced philosophy. And you would always hope that developers kind of try to bring everything up to that same OP level of that one skill or that one character, that one weapon, as opposed to just bringing that down. Where, Matt, so you said lightning is pretty OP. I'm guessing the visuals are pretty good with it. In terms of the other, I guess, elementals or the combat styles, is there anything in particular you want to see brought up to the same level as lightning, just because you think it looks cool, or is just equally, it could be as visually pleasing?
I mean, it's not just about like its visual stuff. Like, I think all of the elements themselves, I think they all look very good. Like, all the ice stuff does have very nice, kind of like ice effects added to it. The dark element, I think, has very, very nice visuals. I think the dark element visuals themselves are my favorite, because it is kind of like this void feeling that I think really, really fits with the space versus like robots theme. It's just that lightning itself has so many, I guess, like mechanics to play with. In particular, like lightning itself has, chain lightning, and it also has the ability to stun. And this stuff all scales off your crit chance. So the strongest build that like me and my friends have found, and this is also a co-op game, is that you raise your crit chance, build lightning, and you basically just hard stun lock anybody you shoot. Because you have like, chance to crit or chance to stun on crit. Your crit has a chance to spread your lightning damage to others, and you can just basically lock down a room with a shotgun or an SMG. Just, playing the RNG roulette by shooting as many bullets as you can.
Matt, I think you just sold me on this game with that play style.
Yeah, like the game is like really, really fun. I think like it reminds me a lot of like Destiny, but like maybe brought down like one step in terms of intensity, because
Okay.
one thing that I also kind of want in this is that this game, I guess, coming from a PvE kind of origin, it is very much based around gunplay, and there isn't really much here to use tool wise other than gunplay. And I really hope that once this game, like, maybe gets like further, they add something else.
Something like melee weapons, or kind of just spells, something in that vein? Or...
Yeah, you have a melee weapon available to you, but to be honest, like, I don't think the melee builds are particularly well balanced right now. But yeah, I want something like a spell. Like, I want some kind of ability cooldown to use that I think would really, for me, elevate like the gameplay of this particular game.
Okay. Matt, you're selling me with that build, and I hope they don't nerf it.
Same.
A few questions. In terms, so you said it's a roguelite. In terms of meta progression, what are we looking at?
It is your kind of like standard progression stuff of, hey, every 3 levels, you get brought to this machine that lets you raise your long-term progression. And your long-term progression stuff is like, you do more damage with like X element, your primary weapons do more damage, you have your secondary weapons do more damage, your melee weapons do more damage, you have more health, you have more shields. It's all that standard kind of like stat creep in terms of what the meta or the long-term progression is. And one thing I am kind of on the fence on if I actually like it or not, is that your long-term progression is a little bit RNG dependent. Because you pick up like, you know, your currency just from your long-term experience currency just from killing enemies. And, you know, that's pretty standard. But like I said, like after 3 or 4 levels, you'll go to like this basically computer that lets you upgrade your meta stats, and you have maybe like 20 to 25 like long-term stats that you can level up, but you're only presented 3 of them randomly at that screen. And you have to decide between those 3 whether, hey, I want to upgrade one of these, or I'll just save my currency until the next one and hope I get something more relevant.
Right. Oh, that's kind of a shame, but I have played roguelites that do the same way, where it's that risk versus reward thing of banking it and hoping for it. Yeah. Where, but that's okay. Last question, Matt. I know you touched upon it, but since this is a first-person game that revolves around such heavy gunplay, Matt, how does it feel? How does it feel to shoot something?
It feels really good. I think for me, like the thing that really stood out is the guns all feel really nice to shoot. Like there's very noticeable hit effects. There are, you know, like the enemies react to being shot, which is like very nice. I think the thing that is really bad right now in terms of the gunplay is that when you're playing co-op, it becomes kind of iffy on the because the co-op does the kind of like someone is hosting the game and then people join them and you're kind of like tethering off of them. When you are the person who is joining somebody else's game, some desync issues can happen, and I think the one that frustrates me the most is sometimes bullet sounds don't go off. So you don't know sometimes if an enemy is shooting at you or not.
That's a shame.
Unless you stick your head out and you just die. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
how's the soundtrack? Because like a lot of these games kind of get carried by the soundtrack, I feel.
I'll be honest, I am a very bad person to ask that type of question to.
Oh.
Because when I play video games, I turn the soundtracks off.
Are you
yeah.
a 2-screen gamer?
No, it's not even about being like a 2-screen gamer. I am a 2-screen gamer. Like I will have like something else like on the other screen, but I don't listen to the music when I play video games anymore.
Your entire media consumption habits, all of them, confuse the hell out of me.
Yeah.
What do you listen to?
This guy doesn't watch a full episode of anything. He doesn't listen to anything while he's playing video games. Like, he's got 6 monitors. I don't know what he's using them for. He actually does have 6 monitors, right?
Yeah, but like more? It's divided between 2 computers, so
he's got 2 computers, and who knows why he's got 2 computers.
Well, okay, 3 of those monitors are connected to one computer for my work, and then 3 of those monitors are for my gaming.
To come to Matt's defense, as also a second monitor gamer, I think with like roguelites in particular, they lend themselves to, oh, maybe I'll throw on a podcast or I'll have a documentary in the background, just something to complement my mindless grinding and killing of things. So, but kind of leaning off of Julian's question, in terms of the aesthetics, Matt, and just the overall visuals, how are you finding just its overall style? And I guess with any good roguelite, the environmental variety?
There honestly is not much environmental variety right now. This area, the starting area kind of divides itself, I guess, into kind of like 3 sort of looks. But they are all very like space station themed, where, you know, your first section is, hey, you're progressing through like, it's very like cargo hold-esque, you know, it's just a lot of like steel boxes and kind of like big rooms. And then like you progress through kind of like I don't want to say, it looks like you're inside a space mall, but I know that that's not what it's called. You're like, it's like almost like a civilian kind of like living quarters, or like sort of like that kind of theming, where it's like, oh, there's like, you know, benches, there's like ads against the wall, like it's that sort of feel like, okay, it's like when you're on Mass Effect and you're like in the kind of like
Yes,
the
there you
Citadel
go.
itself, and like
Was
you're
gonna
walking
ask.
around, yeah, like where like Shepard punches that one reporter, like it's that kind of feel. And
Okay.
then yeah, and then you kind of like progress further, and you're kind of like, oh, it's kind of doing the corrupted space thing where, oh, something bad happened here, and now there's just like, oh, blood on the wall. There's like a red fog covering the area, and everything is somehow sort of decrepit in here, but it all still has a very mechanical space theme.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But so Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I know demo available now. This is Deadzone Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Says it's coming soon. Where
Coming soon.
hopefully this comes out sooner rather than later. Just because from what you said and the gameplay on the Steam page itself
Mm-hmm.
looks right up my alley, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this will leave a better roguelike taste in my mouth than Nightreign did. But
Mm-hmm.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
you opened the Mass Effect floodgates, and I'd be amiss if we didn't ask our friend Julian. Julian, what would you do with Mass Effect? What is it, 5 to save Bioware?
I don't know. I played Veilguard.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Julian,
there's
without saying too woke, what? Why don't people like Dragon? Shit, what's this game called? Dragon Age.
Dragon
Okay,
Age Veilguard.
Yeah.
Julian, without saying too woke, why don't people like Dragon Age Veilguard?
I mean, it's too up, but
It's
also
too awake. Too awake.
it's too awake. But I think my biggest problem with Veilguard is that it is a 10-year in the making sequel to a highly beloved franchise that main draw was you had an interconnecting story that carried between each sequel, and none of that was in Veilguard. Like they tried to, before the game release, they tried to talk about this idea of like, oh, we only carried over like the most important choices that you made, and that boiled down to 5 choices. And then you play the game and you find out that those 5 choices aren't even like that into like it didn't really matter too much in the game in the grand scheme of
Mm-hmm.
things. Like it was like 5 choices that they said is the most important, but then you play the game and like none of those choices really matter. And anything that the previous game set up was resolved off screen. Um, it's weird because like you would play the game and you would read like updates on like things happening because it's like a Mass Effect 3 where it's the culmination of everything, but you're not there. So like imagine if Mass Effect 3 happened, the Reapers came, but Shepard isn't fighting the Reapers. Shepard is doing like something else and is just reading about.
Punching reporters, as Matt said.
Yeah, exactly. And like not really like part of the main, like the thing you want to be in. You're just reading about like the part of you're reading about the fight that you actually want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Mass Effect 4 is the one they're kind of touting, and in a lot of ways, a lot of people are saying that it might go well or it might go better because like technically Mass Effect 3 is the trilogy, Mass Effect trilogy is a complete story. So like technically they could start a new story in Mass Effect 4 that isn't at all like carrying over any of your choices. Which is weird, and I'm not sure how they're gonna do it because like there are 3 distinct endings in 3. Um,
Different colored beacons.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but regardless of like the fact that they're like just 3 different colored beacons, like at the end of the day, like they fundamentally really whatever choice you make fundamentally change the universe in like very diverse ways. It's either like you control the Reapers, so you are the Reapers now, or they're fully destroyed, or they're integrated with all this organic species in the universe. So like I don't know how they're gonna. I think my thing with the Mass Effect 4 sequel is I think their mistake is making it a sequel. I think they should have just done like something that happens during the trilogy, like in the Citadel, because the Citadel is like
Mm.
a really massive like space station. And the Mass Effect universe is massive as well. And I'm not sure what their hesitancy is with just having a game that takes place during like during the trilogy. Because I'm sure you could retell a really good story, especially with like, if you're not Shepard and you're someone else, you could have the benefit of kind of rewarding longtime players by telling a new story, but also giving information through like dramatic irony, where if you're not Shepard, there's things that they might not know, but you as a player, if you played the original trilogy, might know because as Shepard, you were front and center at the whole Reaper thing. So like, there's
Just
a lot of interesting things they could do if they did it or said it during the trilogy. But I don't know. I don't know why they're really stuck on like bringing Shepard back because like,
So I actually had a question about that. I'm a little bit out of the loop on all of the Mass Effect news. Is it confirmed that Shepard's coming back, or is this just kind of like internet gossip that's saying that Shepard's
yeah,
coming
it's
back?
confirmed. Like their big like poster announcement is like Shepard, um, wearing like a trench coat, but like their face is covered to kind of hide like, because
Oh man.
there's male and femme Shep.
But like
But
that's Shepard coming back as a playable character.
yeah, I think so. And I think
Mm.
like because the initial teaser trailer was Liara looking for Shepard or whatever. Because like I think they confirmed. Oh, actually, now thinking about it, they can only go off the destroy ending of destroy the Reapers because that's the only ending that hints at Shepard surviving. Um, so maybe that's kind of where they're going off of. But they did confirm, like I'm pretty sure it is confirmed that it is playable Commander Shepard bringing them back.
yeah, if not outwardly confirmed, I think that's what the internet discourse, at least from the talk or people discussing the next Mass Effect. I don't know. Is it 4 technically? Because I guess Andromeda doesn't count, or it counts,
Yeah.
but not in the mainline series. But from what I've seen, it is a lot of people talking about Shepard is either playable or has a bigger role. And then, when we get to the icky parts of it, it's, well, we have to be involved in some way when you think about the current state of Bioware and how they need a hit given, what happened with, what was it, Anthem and the, I guess,
Yeah.
reception to Dragon Age, the Veil
Yeah.
Guard, where,
I think the thing
yeah,
too is like when people think of BioWare now, it's not the BioWare that made the Mass Effect trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of those writers, and unfortunately, like it was pretty big in the news too. Like a lot of the senior writers in BioWare, like either left during Veilguard or was let go shortly after Veilguard. So like I don't know, it's weird because it's that concept of now who's writing Mass Effect 4. Because it's this idea of like, is it people who are aware of the universe and respect that lore, or is it fans who are writing it? Because there's I'm
yeah,
not sure, like, I don't know if there's, I don't want to get too into it, but there's that idea of like fans writing beloved franchises, like the idea of like Star Wars now, of like Star Wars fans writing Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be like a good thing where it's like, okay, they have a good understanding of it, or they could kind of have like this idea in their head of what this franchise is and kind of just push that idea as opposed to kind of, like examining it as, it's I don't know, it's hard. I guess like the thing I'm trying to say is like whatever this comes down to, like the DNA of what BioWare was before isn't really there. So it's like, I don't
Just
know.
yeah.
yeah,
But at the same
just
time,
the
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from. And sorry, Rakush, just wanted to mention this real quick. We've seen this a lot where I know recently we kind of briefly discussed it with Platinum and its current state with so many of the key directors leaving and the key producers and design people, and what is Platinum Games right now. But it's also the idea that your studio brand and even the property brand name itself carries so much weight and does so much heavy lifting to the general audiences, where we look at something like Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out. Leslie Benzi is not there. He has Mind's Eye coming out. Laszlo's not a part of it anymore. And you have all these senior people who really set the tone, set the direction for the Grand Theft Auto games, who aren't at Rockstar anymore. And yet everyone's still anticipating Grand Theft Auto 6 because there's that Rockstar pedigree that has been built over the years. And I feel like when it comes to discourse within games and publishers and developers, no one's necessarily, unless you're a Kojima, no one's really looking at studios, at least I find, like that anymore, where sure, key members can leave, but it might be maybe hope or nostalgia. But if BioWare is working on Mass Effect 4 or whatever it is, and marketing tells you it's a return to form, people are going to buy into it just because that's what they attach to it. So it is pretty interesting, this idea of, oh, I want this franchise to return to form with its original developers, even though those original developers are long gone. How we as an audience attach that, just all those feelings towards that publisher or that developer name, and how that means a lot more than who's actually behind the seat. So yeah, it's kind of strange, but at the same time, I think it's also weird. BioWare is in that weird spot where even if all the lead writers have left, all eyes are going to be on this game to see if it makes or breaks the studio. And I think that's the unfortunate reality for a lot of studios for these long tried and true, well, not really tried and true anymore, but all these long historied franchises. So I don't know, where Mass Effect goes, where even Assassin's Creed goes in the future, and will the exist after the next installment. And as you were kind of alluding to, Julian, are the people there equipped to be able to do that? So sorry, Rakush, what was on your mind as well?
Yeah, no worries. Well, two thoughts. One on what Julian was saying, one on what you were saying. Starting with what you were saying, I think there's an argument to be made these franchises shouldn't exist anymore, or at least they should not exist for a prolonged period.
Oh, but that's capitalism, baby.
Yeah, of course, yes, right? Like, why is Shepard back? I feel like if you really want to, boil it down to the most jaded answer possible, they got to sell the game, right? Like, you can't, if you're trying to sell the game, you're gonna go with endearing characters. But to kind of go back to what Julian was saying about the original team members not existing, and I know Jaren, you continued that point as well. Maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I'm just kind of feeling deja vu right now. I feel like this conversation around BioWare not being the BioWare it once was the exact same conversation we had when Mass Effect 3 came out, when Andromeda came out, when Dragon Age Inquisition came out. Every single time a game comes out from BioWare, it feels like that's the conversation. I know with Bethesda for sure, we've had that conversation in the past with lead writers leaving, and
I never got that impression for BioWare. So Mass Effect 3 had most of the original, Casey Hudson was the lead for 3, even though he was a co-writer for 1 and 2, and then the lead left. But I think
so he was a co-writer for 1 and 2, but not the lead writer for 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, he was the co, and then he kind of
so
became the lead for 3.
Those are the kind of conversations I am alluding to with this statement, is that it's not the exact same. You're never going to get the exact same conversation, but people leave jobs, right? What's the longest I've held a full-time job for? 3.5, 4 years max. This franchise has been around since 2008. Like, imagine telling an artist they're going to be writing about the same franchise for, what, 17 years now? That's half our lives,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So,
100%. Like
yeah.
I see your point. It's just I think the big thing people are pointing out this time is like there was always some form of connecting tissue, regardless of the fact that like a lot of the senior writers left. Like even Veilguard had a connecting tissue. The original one of the lead writers for the Dragon Age series was still with Veilguard when it started. Like they had left like halfway through, due to like creative differences
Mhm.
of like them trying to turn Veilguard into like a live service game. Um, but like there was still a connecting tissue at the end of the day. I think Mass Effect is gonna be the first where it's like there isn't really that anymore. Because even in Veilguard, like a lot of the senior lead writers, um, who wrote like individual characters that people loved. Like there's people who wrote like the person that wrote Varric in Inquisition was one of the lead writers for Veilguard on certain characters. So there was still kind of like that connection. For Mass Effect 4, like I could be wrong, and granted they're not really very open about this, but just going from like the recent news of how they've kind of let go all of these senior staff. Like there was, I think it was a couple weeks back or a couple months back where, um, like they weren't, like they didn't leave of their own volition. Like they were, like BioWare had actively let go, all of their senior writing staff. So like that's kind of what people are like
Yeah,
worried about,
Mhm.
I think.
for sure. But
Mhm.
yeah, let's see, right? Like, I mean, I know we've got a lot of other things to talk about, so maybe this will be my final note on this as well. But like, um, I like everything you're saying actually kind of makes me a little bit more excited for Mass Effect 4 because I would like to see a fresh perspective on it, right? Like,
Mhm, mhm.
I've been reading comic books for a big chunk of my life. Stop for a little bit, back up again, but like, why is Batman so timeless? Batman is timeless because there are probably 15 to 16 different like story arcs written by 15 to 16 different writers that you can look at and say those are some of the best Batman stories of all time. Right? It's still the same characters. Like, you still have Commissioner Gordon, you still have Bruce Wayne in most of them. Like, you have a lot of these endearing characters, but the writers are different. The writers put their own spin on it. And I know like this is not necessarily like a one-to-one art form on this, and I know that like as like time has progressed, the kind of like the credits, like Jaren, you were alluding to it, outside of Kojima, like no one's really talking about, well, Kojima and some of the Capcom games, like no one's really talking about who's making what anymore, right? Like, or who the lead writer is. This feels kind of refreshing to me as far as like, look, like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on BioWare to survive, but you're giving it to a new writer, whether it's a fan, whether it's someone who can objectively write a good story, whatever it is, it's at least not more of the same. Which, after 15 years of a franchise existing and kind of going back to even Assassin's Creed, like after like 3 generations of consoles worth of games, like try something new, do something different. So yeah, I could be wrong as well. Maybe they just end up doing more of the same. Who knows? Maybe it's just a tribute to like the first 3 games, right? But
Mhm.
um, maybe it's not. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah. Just
Mhm.
kind of touch upon what Julian mentioned earlier, but yeah, this was I think 2 weeks ago now that Bioware was hit with layoffs internally as well. I think EA themselves reported that there was a downsizing of it, with many employees being moved to other studios within the company while a core team continues to work on the next Mass Effect. So yeah, to Riku's point, it is interesting to see what form the next Mass Effect takes, but just with the doom and gloom, and I think given the reception to the last few projects of Bioware, I'm curious to see how this hits and what the future for that beloved studio is. Just because um,
Mhm.
within a lot of us here, Bioware has produced a lot of games that may have meant something to us and given us
Mhm.
a lot of core memories as well. So here's hoping that the next installment is something that is worthy of the pedestal that we place the Mass Effect games on as well. But
Mhm.
real quick, I was going to touch upon a
Oh.
bummer game, but guys,
Wait, hang on. Before we move far away from Mass Effect, I just want to ask you guys if any of you have been paying attention to like Exodus: The Traveler's Creed.
I have not.
No.
That sounds like a
Nope.
Julian game. Julian, have you been paying attention to it?
What is that? Exodus.
Because I know it's very much kind of like a bait kind of like, statement now, but Exodus: The Traveler's Creed is a Mass Effect like game by quote unquote the original, like some of the original devs from Mass Effect. And
Guys,
I don't know. I was
not
wondering if
trying
any
to
of you
take-
guys had looked at it, but
I'm not
I
trying
don't
to
know.
take away anything from this project, but
Uh-huh.
realistic talks to you, friends.
Mhm.
Whenever you hear a project that says from the original developers from X, has that game ever hit for you?
Mm,
I don't think so.
yeah.
The whole drama around Disco Elysium and how, I mean, it's probably the most Disco Elysium thing ever that this is happening. That there are 4 active spiritual successors being made. There's the whole like from the original creators thing is like when I hear it, I'm like, okay, like I kind of just glaze over, and then I'm like, okay, like it's more so of a wait and see for me.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because like the budget, the engine, all of that stuff is so different, right? Like if you're making it for one studio, or at least like big studios, like I'm sure they have contracts in place where it's like you cannot take like anything that you worked on for that company, or like on say like your company computers or laptops, like you can't take that to the next game or whatever. So it's all different, man. Like budgets are different, like talent is different, all of that stuff. Team size is different. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Going back to my point with the Mass Effect stuff, like, again, Leslie Benzie's new game, Mind's Eye, was shown off at the
Right.
last State of Play. And yet, new game from him, everyone can't help but compare it to, or mention his Rockstar pedigree, his work on Grand Theft Auto, his work on Red Dead Redemption, and kind of undermining what was shown off as, oh, this is third-person gunplay, high-end cinematics, and driving around and gun shooting. Why is he releasing this on the same year as Grand Theft Auto, where that brand is too, like, again, to that point, despite having named developers and projects and being the original team, it's sometimes really hard to escape that shadow casted by the original, especially if it's the juggernaut of Grand Theft Auto, where I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But Matt, when you bring it up, one, haven't heard of the game, but two, I feel like from my gaming experience the past couple of years, I've never had anything hit from the original. I think the closest thing was Marvel Heroes with some of the Diablo 2 team working on that, and you know how much I loved Marvel Heroes. But other than that, Matt, has it hit for you anytime?
I mean, I don't think it's ever hit for me. I just like the trailer for Exodus because it's like main show off fight is a bear that has rocket launchers attached to its back.
Okay.
And I feel like that's the correct amount of like camp I want from this type of game.
Fair enough.
I don't know if this counts, but BioShock is technically was a spiritual successor to System Shock,
Fair,
and they were
fair.
made by different companies, and that was Kevin Levine.
I would make the argument that BioShock made System Shock more popular.
Whoa, no.
You don't think so? Because
System
BioShock
Shock 2, System Shock 2. If you were a PC gamer, you knew System Shock 2.
I think you're looking at it as a cult classic. I'm looking at it as like a commercial success. Like System Shock 2 is not getting a remake if BioShock is not the franchise that it is.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, like, yes, for sure. 100% BioShock is infinitely more popular, or became infinitely more popular. But System Shock 2, like, that's a classic, man.
I'm not taking anything away from the quality of the game. Just want to clarify that, right? Like it's more so just like if we're talking about
commercial success.
If people bought BioShock because it was a System Shock spiritual successor, I don't know about that. That's the only thing where I would say, a little bit.
Okay,
iffy.
yeah, that's fair. Okay, maybe that didn't count then.
But yeah, I know we talked about some bummer notes with the Bioware, but I was debating if I should talk about a bummer game I played this weekend. All I'll say about Jujutsu Kaisen Curse Clash, I think it's a crime that this is being sold on Steam right now for $80. And honestly, anime fans, you should want better.
You mean to tell me something to do with Jujutsu Kaisen is disappointing?
This game shouldn't be $80. That's a crime.
Bro.
I feel like any anime arena brawler, anime fans should want better. Anime fans deserve better.
I don't know about deserve.
You know,
I don't know about deserve.
Wait, Rakush, you finished Jujutsu Kaisen, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think the thing that always surprises me the most when I hear about talks about Jujutsu Kaisen's creation is that it was supposed to start after Shibuya incident, which always throws me off because I feel
Seriously?
yeah, apparently I can't remember the author's name, but like the story of Jujutsu Kaisen,
Akutami.
yeah, is supposed to start after Shibuya incident. Everything before Shibuya incident, so basically the start until the end of Shibuya incident, basically everything of the anime right now was never supposed to actually be written. And I'd argue that's the best part of Jujutsu Kaisen.
I don't want to talk about that series, but it's gonna make me super grumpy. It will make me super grumpy. Jaren, you know how this game would be worth $80 if like they made permadeath characters,
guys?
because this entire series is just meant to piss you off. So if the game pisses you off, maybe it's actually an accurate, representation of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Guys, the menus are bad. The menus remind me of Flash games growing up. I don't want to say cinematics, but the story mode is essentially you playing through the first season of JJK, and it feels like it's been done in Windows Movie Maker. You have honestly, I went through the prologue, which was essentially the first couple of episodes, and not only is it slideshow with anime voiceovers. One, narration doesn't have a voiceover. Two, it omits certain things from the anime where if you've watched the anime itself and then you play through the game, you'll know, oh, stuff's missing here. And it's pretty important stuff to actually give the characters, their characteristics, their motivations, and all that stuff gone. And then you get to the gameplay. Boys, I've never played an anime brawler that felt good. This lacks any impact. I think it controls clunky. The animations aren't great. They did Nobara pretty badly with her in-game model, so I was extra offended in that way. So not worth $80. Possibly not worth $20.
What was the last anime brawler that you played that you liked?
It's not a brawler, but Dragon Ball Z Fighters was probably the best anime fighting game I've ever played, just because it looked great, it had good impact, and it was fast-paced enough to give you the Dragon Ball sensibilities. But if we're talking,
that's not a brawler though. Yeah. I'm talking about like Naruto Shippuden or whatever.
I enjoyed my time with the Ninja Storm games. Granted, like my time with them is basically limited to under 5 or 6 hours, but I thought they were fun to play.
Matt, how old were you when you played them?
I'm pretty sure I was in my like 20s.
Okay, fair enough.
Last week.
I was playing them yesterday.
But
I looked this up on Google, and 2 of the 4 video results are titles "Don't hate on this game." And the second one, "Stop hating on this game." But they're both by the same user, 3 months apart.
Oh
man. But before this has been a Beefy Boy episode, but I want to mention one more game because I think this one's more so up our alley. And Julian, you were a fan of Paradise Killer, correct?
Yeah, I played it. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to finish it, but okay. I liked what I played.
Have you heard of their new game?
No, what is it?
So they released a demo for their new game called Promise Mascot Agency. And now that I have the bad anime taste of JJK Curse Clash in my mouth, a palate cleanser would be Promise Mascot Agency, just because I feel like this is such a weird game, but I think there are parts to it that would at least warrant us. I would recommend it for us all to check out in some capacity. Demo available now on Steam. But essentially you play as a ex-Yakuza member who has to essentially start over to pay off a debt. And he's tasked with going to a small town and trying to restart a mascot agency where mascots in this world are essentially yokai adjacent. So your partner in this is this character called Pinky, who is a giant finger because one, her mom's a fairy, and two, her dad's a cursed finger. So it's kind of in that, samey anime aesthetic. But the gameplay loop is you're running this mascot agency where you have to go around, recruit different mascots, and then kind of in a management style, send them off to do various tasks like, oh, there's a new bookstore opening. You need to assign a mascot to go there to promote it. And in the whole time, from what I've seen, it looks like you're trying to rebuild this town while paying off your Yakuza debt. And from what the start page says, trying to discover all the mysteries and hijinks that this town might be hiding. And what I do like about it is the characters look fun so far. You're running into all these different mascots, and there is a battle system portion to it where if you send out a mascot to an event, they might run into trouble, and then you start essentially a battle phase where you have to play different hero cards to kind of help them out of the situation. I think the tutorial example is you send your tofu mascot to this bookstore opening, it gets stuck in the door, so you essentially have to fight the door using these different hero cards to try to remedy the situation. So I think it's really zany. It has a lot of charm so far. And even the management stuff, while not super in-depth, during the recruitment process, you're trying to negotiate salaries, what your employee perks are, when they're going to get different benefits or reviews. So I think I'm hoping this game comes together because it's so charming so far. It has a good presentation. I do like that I'm putting my Duolingo hiragana learning to use, and that's how they indicate what time of day it is. So I don't know. I feel like this is definitely something to keep an eye out on the very least. And, you have little nods to different animes. I did like the Pop Team Epic reference that you see early on. So yeah, Promise Mascot Agency, check it out. I think the only bummer part right now is the open world stuff where it is really reminiscent of No More Heroes, where you're kind of traveling around this small town in a truck. You're going from A to B, and then once you get there, you press A to start interacting with it, where it screams this could have just been a menu, but I'm hoping that when the game fully releases, there's more to do in the overworld. But just from playing an hour of the demo, really charming, left a good impression. According to the store page, this is a planned 2025 release date, but check out the demo if that sounds interesting to you, which means, Matt, I think this is the start of Steam Next Fest season, which is coming in a week. And that seems like another beefy boy episode of the Mistake Zone, where, Matt, we've been doing this for a while now. Wait, no, that would just be Mistake Chan. I was going to ask you, what would the Mistake Zone mascot look like? But that would just be Mistake Chan. Matt, what does 2025 Mistake Chan look like?
I mean, I feel like Mistake Chan has always just been a knockoff Hatsune Miku whenever we talk about how they're supposed to look. But
knockoff Hatsune Miku wearing a track suit similar to what's her face from the Angel anime.
You said the Angel anime as if there's not like 1,000 of those.
Wataten, you're talking about
Wataten. Matt, Rakush, I understand your concern, but Matt knows.
Rakush, you're on that time.
You know what? My fault. A mistake. I apologize.
Good anime. I still remember the fact that, like, the first time we talked to Rakush about that anime on 2019 Mistake Zone was the episode where it was little girls playing in a pool.
Yep.
Surprise! Jesus. Okay.
Surprise! Rakush came back.
That's the one with the English-speaking blonde girl or whatever, right?
I feel like English-speaking blonde girl. You're correct, yes, but that is also a very, very common anime trope.
I understand. Got it.
But Matt, only one way to end a Beefy Boy episode is with another round of Don't Match Me. So Matt, please challenge us this week.
All right. So we're here again to do another Don't Match Me challenge. As always, the way this game works is that I, as the question asker, am going to ask you, the listener, 5 questions, and I'm going to provide 5 answers. All that you have to do as a listener is provide an answer that isn't the same as my answer. And, if you think that sounds too easy, you can also try to not match the rest of my co-hosts on this episode. And as always, remember that this is a podcast, so if you're struggling to think of an answer, remember you can always pause us, give a quick internet search for the answer, and then unpause us, because we're going to be right there at the other end of that play button. This week I was bringing Deadzone Rogue, and I thought a topic that would really fit with that is space. So I'm really, really glad that we spent, I want to say, a majority of this episode talking about Mass Effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, here is my space-based Don't Match Me challenge. We don't really talk about it anymore, but we are still an anime-adjacent podcast. So what I want you to do is...
What do you mean we don't talk about it anymore?
We talked about JJK for a good portion of this episode.
Yeah, but I feel like before that, we haven't talked about anime for a while since you guys stopped doing your weekly check-ins of Dawn to Dawn.
Fair.
But, going back to the Don't Match.
That was like 2 weeks ago.
Was it? I feel like that was so long ago.
No, it's not been that long. You made it sound like it's been years since we talked about anime.
We're at the end of February. I feel like you guys haven't talked about it for at least a month, and that's like 4 episodes. But anyway, my first question is: name any alien race from an anime. Just any alien race from any anime that you can think of, as long as they're not, Earth in origin. You guys all good?
No, I need a few minutes. What do you mean we're good? You think we got this information on the top of our minds here?
Matt, please, we're stupid.
You know this. You've made games to make us look stupid.
All
right, I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
Jaren?
Wait. No. Wait, I need to know if I'm... Damn, guys.
See, Jared already has the answer. You just kind of got to play this character. That makes him look like he didn't know this 5 seconds into the question.
I would have edited this part out, but I'm going to leave it in now because we're trashing Jaren.
So I have the anime I want, because I know it takes place in space, and Matt probably knows which one I'm thinking of. But I'm not sure if... Guys, the guy... God damn it.
You got him.
Wow, this is thrilling podcasting right now, and I'm going to. So Matt, what's your favorite space anime?
Am I gonna give my answer now, or are you good?
Sure.
All right.
How about Jaren? You go last, so you have a little bit of time.
All right.
We also have an extra person this week, so you have a little bit more time.
Okay. So name that alien race in 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna go with the alien race that I feel like maybe a lot of people in our generation first encountered, which is Saiyans.
That's a good one.
Oh, a race. I was thinking of like a specific alien.
Oh, no, a race. A race
you
of
know
aliens.
What? I still feel like if you have like a specific alien, we can figure out what the race is from that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So I had Yuki Nagara.
Oh, from Haruhi?
Haruhi. Yeah. I don't think they've ever
She's an alien?
specifically said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What the?
I don't know what her... Yeah. I don't know what her
I don't think they
alien race is.
ever specifically said what race she is.
The Haruhi race. Let's just say the Haruhi race.
Rakush, what do you got?
I'm going with the Oni race from Urusei Yatsura.
Ooh.
That's the race of the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Or the girl, Rom.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jaren?
So I'm going to take the L on this one, because when you said name any alien race, honestly, Matt, the first character to pop on my head, kind of similar to what Julian was, I thought Paulina from our favorite 2019 space anime Astra, Lost in Space, where I'm pretty sure... Are they aliens, Matt?
I think
they live on Earth.
No, I think that the people you're talking about are sort of technically just like, okay, would you guys consider Earthlings that move to another place aliens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's that Professor Layton puzzle. That was the answer.
Oh, really? Okay, I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
So my answer is
Okay.
Paulina from Astro Lost in Space.
Oh, bad. Okay. Okay. That was a very chunky first question. But
Thanks, Sherry.
hopefully the second question is a lot less chunky.
Okay.
Name any game where you can travel through space.
Wait, Matt, what was your answer?
Saiyans. Like Dragon
Right,
Ball Z's
right.
Saiyans. Yeah.
Right.
I'm so lost right now in space. 2019 was a great year, Matt.
Sharon's
Good
spaced
anime.
out.
Good anime. But yeah. So second question. Name any game where you can travel through space. So name that game in 3, 2, 1. I'm going Space Truckin' in Elite Dangerous.
Oh, good
Okay,
game. Good game.
okay, that's a
Nice.
good one. That's
Mhm.
a good one.
What order do you want to go? You want to go back to regular order or?
No, Julian, you go next.
Thought No Man's Sky.
Mm.
Good answer. Good answer.
Ooh, that was going to be my second choice.
Rakush?
I went with EVE Online.
Oh,
Good answer. Good
nice.
answer.
Space
Jaren?
Bankers.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
Space
went
Bankers.
with a game that we were really positive on, Matt Alba, in Starfield.
Were we positive on that one?
We were. That
Or
was
was
the
that
goof,
sarcastic?
Matt. That was the goof, Matt.
Okay. All right. So going on to the slightly more specific questions here. It's I feel like one that should exist inside this Don't Match Me. Name any planet in our solar system. So name that planet in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with my, I feel like 10-year-old favorite, Neptune.
Ooh,
nice.
good one. Good, Matt. Good
Why
answer.
was it your 10-year-old favorite?
I think like, from whenever, like since I was like 10 years old, for some reason Neptune has always appealed to me as a planet.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Julian?
Jupiter. For Sailor Jupiter. I'm
Mm.
saying.
Guys, you guys know which one I'm going with. I'm going with Uranus because Uranus.
Of course.
Come
Of
on.
course.
Come
Of
on.
There.
course. Jaren?
As a fellow man of culture, I also went with Sailor Jupiter.
Oh man. All right.
Nice.
So
We like what we like, Julian.
Yeah.
okay. So fourth question. Name any country that has put something on the moon. So any country that has put something on the moon.
Oh, this is a super hard question actually because there's not a lot of answers to this.
To my knowledge, at least there's 8 that you can put here.
No, there's only 4.
Not landed. You can put something on the moon without landing there. Not landed.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, name that country in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with the one that surprised me the most to see that they put anything into space at all, which is Luxembourg.
Wow.
Yeah,
Explain
they're
this
appearing
one.
a lot
Explain
on
this
this
one.
Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lore here?
What do you mean? What's the lore?
What did they put on the moon?
I think they just like crashed a satellite into the moon.
Does that count? Like if
Yeah,
you like
that's why.
put it
Like
there
that's
by
why I
accident?
specifically asked the thing. No, they like impacted. They had I believe they just had the satellite in the sky, and then like the way they decided to get rid of it is just throw it onto the moon.
It's like complicated littering.
That's how 4 of the countries did.
That's
it.
intentional. Like they intentionally meant for it to be on the moon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Like it's called like
Okay.
impacting onto
Alright.
the moon instead of landing onto the moon when you did it softly.
Right.
They also have a rover there apparently that
Oh,
is on purpose. So
Mhm.
not
Listen,
not just a
Luxembourg
crashing.
investing in hey, they're investing in the right things.
yeah. I'm just surprised that all that Luxembourg has like all the countries. Luxembourg has a space program.
Aren't they also like the smallest country in Europe?
Yes, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah. So you know,
Yeah.
what
Julian?
else do they get invest in?
I just went with China.
Classic.
True.
hmm
Rakush?
Yeah, I got to go with my mother country, India.
Jaren?
Good answer. Good
I'm
answer.
brown.
I went with Japan because they showed up on Google when I typed it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew one of you 3 was gonna pick Japan, so that was like
Mhm.
last option.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, last question. The most specific question. Name any layer of the atmosphere.
What? Ah, jeez. See, every time, Matt, you have to come up with questions for us to answer. You come up with the question with the mindset, how can I make Rakush look stupid?
We got him.
Oh, damn, there's only... Okay. Okay.
To my knowledge, there is arguably 5.
So wait, this would mean we would have to get it perfect to actually win this round. Because there's 4 of us, plus the audience is the 5th.
Well, the audience would have to get it perfect if they're playing hard.
Yeah.
You guys just need to not match me. You guys can match with each other. You know, like we've shown with Uranus.
All right.
Okay. I'm going in 3, 2, 1. I'm going with the only one I could name without looking it up, which was the stratosphere.
Matt, good answer. Good
Nice.
answer. I bet you got a lot of our friends listening out there with that one.
Julian?
I went with the thermosphere because that's the only place that has the Aurora Borealis at this time of day, at this time of the year.
Located entirely in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with the exosphere because it sounds cool.
That does sound cool.
It's a good one. The arguable 5th one. Jaren?
Oddly enough, I went with the middle one, the mesosphere, because I thought, okay, middle of the pack, don't want to stand out too much.
Is it because you're a middle child, Jaren?
No. But
wait,
shout out to... What's up?
You're not, right? You're actually the oldest. Yeah.
Shout out to everyone who picked, Throposphere for surviving hard mode, which I'm really surprised at. But Matt, thank you for once again exposing how dumb I am on this week's Don't Match Me challenge. Congratulations to our friends that won, and congratulations to Paulina from Astra Lost in Space for being a good character. Quick housekeeping, I guess, before we head off to eat, just enjoy our evening. Wanted to check in real quick with the Real Mistake Zone, our fantasy critic league. Currently in first place with the only one with points, we have our friend Julian with 11 points we're looking at Civilization 7, but Matt tentatively is in the lead once the Avowed reviews process with 12 points.
But
when does it lock in the points, I mean?
It should be weekly because
okay.
now, Avowed, even though it has a critic score up, the points haven't been locked in yet. And of course, the threat AI coming for all our jobs with Robot Rakush's Monster Hunter Wilds coming out in a few weeks as well. So, just a reminder that we're still doing this. Me personally, I was thinking of dropping one of my games, but I wanted to kind of remind everyone that this is still a thing I'm taking a look at, especially after the last Sony State of Play, if there was anything you guys wanted to place a bid on. But rounding off, Matt, real quick. Kiori was announced for Idle Showdown Next Fest. Matt, who's the next EN, ID, and device reps coming to this HoloLive fan fighting game?
I feel like EN has to be from Gen 2, so I would pick probably Crony.
I was thinking Crony because she's also one of the bosses you can fight in arcade mode, and so you know how I'm okay with asset flipping.
I feel like Devis, I would want Raiden. Yes. I feel like she is the most combat-y, or Kanade.
Yeah, I was who's the new girl, Nico, the tiger girl?
Nico, I was thinking her too. Yeah,
because she's a tiger.
She has a lot of fighting game energy.
Yep.
Jaren, I feel like I feel like bad saying this, I guess I feel like all the good ID fighters became collabs, and
yeah,
I feel like the only fightery one I could see is Kobo, maybe Anya.
I think Anya would be good. And now that we got our HoloLive corner out the way, boys, I want to thank you once again for joining me this week for another Beefy Boy episode of the Mistake Zone. As always, I want to thank Matt Alba for editing this podcast and also bringing this week's Don't Match Me, which once again made me feel real dumb.
Hey, we got him. Thanks, Jaren, for as always hosting. And I think next week we're gonna be talking about probably.
Yes. Want to thank our boy Rakush. Good to hear that you're feeling a bit better, and thank you for surviving out there going to the movies.
You know what my favorite part of this episode is? I started by saying I'm not coughing anymore, and there's at least 5 or 6 coughs that Matt is going to have to edit out of this episode.
Nice.
Wait, you coughed? Maybe that's how lost in space I am right now.
It's definitely visible on the waveform when I was recording, so yeah.
Also want to thank our friend Julian for also taking some time to join us this week. Julian, will you join us next week to talk about Avowed?
Yeah, probably, depending on when and what time.
Do you vow to be on next week?
I unavow.
Oh.
Ooh.
Wait, does that mean no?
Oh, I don't know. Depends. It depends when it is.
And I was going to thank some other people, but it's pretty late and I still need to make some dinner. But until next week where we talk about Avowed and what other mistakes we run into. You know who I don't want to thank? City Snowplows for putting yucky snow on our driveways. But until then, Matt, please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of devs who worked on the original game.
Damn.